When Van Halen opened for Journey, unfortunately, they started outselling Journey by quite a lot. It became kind of awkward. Journalist Steve Rosen tells the story on Rock History Music.
I love that when he tells you that he's on tour. What was it with Montrose and Journey, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
they were. Well, tell me about that. Like what he had said about he was worried he was.
I remember asking him, and like he couldn't talk about it. They started outselling Journey, and blowing them off the charts and stuff. And Journey didn't like that. And he talks about not getting any time to sound check. They couldn't use any of their flash pots. Ed had this big hollowed out army cell, that he used to put his effects in, his Echoplex and stuff. And I don't even know if they allowed him to use that. So they really shut him down, the whole band down, which is why they took off and did the Day on the Green show, which is July '78, which is their first show away from that tour. And in fact, I would run into Ed. That was the second time I would run into him. That was the next time I met him, at the Day on the Green. And so they're there. AC/DC is opening, Van Halen, Pat Travers, Aerosmith, and Foreigner. So that was a huge show for them. And he was nervous. I remember asking him, "Were you nervous?" He said, "Yeah, man, I was nervous." We couldn't kind of believe he was there amongst those bands, bands that obviously he grew up with and he knew and stuff. But blew Sabbath off, made Ozzy, quit Sabbath and go find Randy Rhoads. And pretty amazing for sure. Just jumping to Edward for one moment, he was really he had this dichotomy as well. One, he was absolutely completely self-aware of who he was as a musician, and he knew he was a very good guitar player. He never talked about it. He never talked that way. He never said, "Man, that last solo I did was freaking unbelievable, man. I blow everybody away." He never spoke like that. And on the other hand, man, there was that little, I don't know if insecurity is the right word, just being a little unsure. I would sometimes make a remark, and he would decipher it as I didn't think what he did was like really good when he was really proud of it, and I was just blown away that he would react like that. One, to me saying that, and two, that he would have had that feeling at all, but he did. I suppose, I'm sure Keith Richards and Jimmy Page and everybody else have those feelings from time to time. I guess it's just sublimating that and, being able to work through that or not look at in the eye and just kind of forge forward,
I noticed in the book at one point you said, well, that's one of the few times he said thank you. It's not because he wasn't thankful, but it's just the way he looked at, like you just said.
Exactly. And again, there was that line I had to straddle about being, his friend and being this journalist who had to interview him from time to time. So, I mean, virtually all the time, I really did sit there in awe. I wasn't blind for one moment that I was spending time with arguably the most important guitar player in the world at that time, but, you have to kind of put that aside and Ed, we need to do an interview and, I can't be your friend right now, even though I never said that, but, there's questions we need to get answered. But there were times when I just lost myself. I go, Ed, my God, I remember it was a Fair Warning record and it was one of the solos. And that's my favorite record. I think its playing is just extraordinary. And I said, Ed, my God, that solo is just unbelievable. He got a little perturbed by it. It's like, and I realized, man, I can't say those things to him. And every once in a while he'd say thank you, if I wasn't directly sort of complimenting him on a solo, it was more like I don't know, like a general music thing. But yeah, he was strange about that, man. It's almost as if by complimenting him that it was demeaning or lessening his art somehow. That you know what I mean? You don't look at it you don't look at the Mona Lisa and say, wow, that is really good. You know what I mean? It's like you couldn't possibly put in words what that is.
He was living with his parents, and as I read in the book, he was living with his parents a long time, way past the point that I thought he would. But why didn't you call him? You had that number. I mean, and I know you were thinking, did he remember when you met him again the second time? I wonder if he remembers that I was that guy. But why didn't you call him?
I was too nervous to call him. You know, when I kind of realized who he was, you know, and I heard the first album, and I thought, oh my God, that's this guy. I regret that, John, to this day. I really do, because I think he would have. I think he really would have welcomed the call, and hopefully he would have remembered me, or you know, I mean, I'm sure he would have. You know, hey man, I met you at the whiskey. You gave me a phone number, and I'm really regretful I never called him. You know, I tend to default to the I don't know, man, the safer, more secure thing. And I thought, well, God, what if I call him and he really doesn't remember me at all? And where'd you get my number? And hey, I'm too busy, you know? And so, yeah, I never called him. But thank goodness our paths would cross again and again and again and again.
And again and again.
Tone Chaser is the brand new book by Steve Rosen, who knew Eddie Van Halen going way back to 1977. It's a great book on so many different artists. Ronnie Montrose, an interesting run-in with him, Paul McCartney, Joe Cocker, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, most notably Bon Scott, Ritchie Blackmore. Now that's a colorful story. But mostly Eddie Van Halen, who he knew, like I said, going way, way back before the first Van Halen album was ever released. There's so much inside information in this book. It's one of my favorite books that I've read in a long time, and I really enjoy talking to Steve. His stories are magical, really. There'll be links in the description where you can pick it up. Remember, if you want to contribute to the channel, if you want to make a donation, there are links on every one of our videos to PayPal. You can make a PayPal donation. You can join our Patreon, get early access to all our videos. But remember, subscribe to the channel, like our videos, comment on them, and share them on social media. This is John Beaudin. More from Steve Rosen coming up in the next 2-3 days. This is Rock History Music. Take care.